Hey everyone, you're listening to Athletes Beyond the Mind, a sports psychology and mental training podcast. Athletes Beyond the Mind is brought to you by Close the Gate Hoops and Close the Gate Hoops Mindset. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome back to another episode of Athletes Beyond the Mind, mental training and sports psychology podcast. This week's topic is a little bit different than most other topics, so we're going to be talking about transitions. And this could be transitions from high school to college, transitions to a new job, transitions to a new part of the country you're living in, whatever it could be. Transitions are a huge part of life, and we're always facing them. For example, I just moved back to the area from being out east for the last 3 years and just transitioning and figuring out how to be back here in the Midwest, which I love, and being by my family. There's just a lot of changes. And when there's a lot of changes, there's a lot of emotions and a lot of other stuff. So it kind of connects to our past few topics as well. And I like this topic because we don't always think of it as having to be mentally prepared for a transition, especially when it's something like high school to college. You're like, well, it's still school. Like, I'm still a student. I'm still an athlete, whatever else you want to put there. But it is still a transition. And being able to prepare for that and being able to feel ready and feel like you can still be you is really huge. So a couple tips with being transition is, first thing, whatever emotion you feel, you feel. I mean, gosh, you could be excited about it, but you could also be angry at the same time. Like, maybe you didn't get into the same school, or maybe you thought you were going to have more time to be prepared. Maybe you thought it wasn't going to cost as much as it's going to cost. All of those things. You could have a lot of different emotions with it. Whatever emotion you're feeling is totally okay and totally right. Another thing with transitions is you may not have that same support group that you've always had. Depending on where you grew up or how you have friends, or depending on your life at home, whatever it could be, you've probably had a pretty solid friend group, family group, whatever else, that strong support group for most of your life. And again, I'm just talking about from high school to college, but that can change greatly. We all want to be besties with the people we were best friends with in high school, but that's not always possible. You all are going through this big transition, and so you're all having to deal with this in a different way, and sometimes that just creates distance. I'm not saying you're not going to be friends with them, because you can be and you will be. A lot of people are. But what I'm saying is it's okay to let go of some of the things in your past. Whether that's changing your personality a little bit, if you've kind of been hiding a part of yourself, whether that's changing some of your identity, maybe that's you've always been the star athlete and now you're just another one in the pond. Maybe it's you've always been an okay student, but now that you're going to college, you really want to step up. You want to focus more on your studies. Whatever it could be, like, people change a lot, especially those first few months in college. You're going to figure out you're a lot different than you thought you were, and that's totally okay. But the thing to remember is that transitions are something everyone goes through. So be calm with it. Prepare for it. If you're moving to college and if it's in your same state, maybe that's a little easier, but maybe you're going to an out-of-state school. How are you going to get there? Start planning ahead and not just the week of. Think about how you're going to get there, what you need to bring, what you still need that you haven't gotten yet. Think about how you are going to change. Maybe you want to be more studious. How can you do that? What are some study skills that work for you? Transitions are just so interesting because they can be as simple as going from one grade to another. It can be something as big as a move, whatever it is. Like, you could just have so many different emotions with it, and even those transitions that seem simple can bring a lot of change to your life. And changes are okay, but they're also really tough, especially when you don't prepare. And something else along with transitions that I always like to talk about is that identity change. Who you are is really important, but it also changes a lot. For me, for example, I've been a student for the last 24, 25 years of my life. Now I'm starting my big girl job. I'm in this career that I really love. But now my first main identity is not student. And we'll talk about this in a future podcast. But how can I be okay with not just being a student? Not the first thing, oh yeah, I'm a student. Yeah, I'm a student here. This is school I go to. This is blah, blah, blah. How can I be okay with that? And how can I be okay with my main identity now being counselor? Or whatever else identity I want to say. Also, like, I'm athletic, but I'm not really an athlete anymore, and I haven't been for a few years because I'm not playing a collegiate level sport or high school sport. And I work out and I do some rec league stuff, but my second main identity also is an athlete. I'm no longer a student athlete. So how can I adjust to that? And that's something you need to think about as well when you're changing. And maybe you're someone who has been playing sports your whole life and you decided you don't want to play in college or you don't want to do a certain sport anymore. How can you come to terms with that and be okay with that? Accept what you've learned from it, appreciate the past you've had, but move forward into this next stage of your life. And that's so exciting. And again, transitions happen all the time. How can you accept those transitions, be okay with them, and move forward? And we have a blog on this, and it's one of those things that's very exciting to think about transitions you have, and most are really great. Of course, there are some that are not so great, and that's a whole other deal. But I'm talking about those good ones, those good transitions, those good changes, and can be exciting, but they're also so nerve-wracking that it's just how can you successfully transition into that new stage of your life without feeling like you're losing a part of yourself or losing out on those people you care about, because those are all super important as well. And I just think it's fascinating when people don't prepare for a transition at all. You start getting so nervous, and that's when that transition doesn't go well. And then you're thinking, did I make the right move? Did I do the right step? So that's why I always say prepare, whether it's for a big move, whether it's for school. Do what you can to prepare and let whatever emotion you're feeling, happen and deal with that. Emotions are a normal part of life, so let it happen. Emotions are us. So let that happen, and that can also help that transition be more successful because you're not so stuck in like, I have to be happy because I'm like doing this new stage of life. I'm supposed to be happy. I'm supposed to be excited. Maybe you're a little angry. Maybe you're a little sad or whatever other emotion you want to put in there. That's okay too. And the sooner you deal with that, the sooner you'll get to one of those more positive emotions and feel a little bit more happy about that and enjoying this new stage of your life. This podcast was a little shorter than our other ones, but I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for listening. Hey everyone, you're listening to Athletes Beyond the Mind, a sports psychology and mental training podcast. Athletes Beyond the Mind is brought to you by Close the Gate Hoops and Close the Gate Hoops Mindset. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy this episode.